myself to tie this town.
Eminent Waste of Time, presented by CW Motorsports, episode 77. I'm Doug.
And I'm Chad.
And this weekend's kind of quiet on the UTV front.
Yeah, there's racing, but no UTV racing.
So MWXC finally got their first round in the books and actually had a pretty decent weekend for it. Lots of sunshine, no precipitation.
Yep.
But no UTV racing in round one.
No UTVs, no Pee-wees. Those are the two fun classes, too.
Yeah, exactly.
To me.
Oh, well. Well, we didn't go to round one anyways.
No.
We're going to go to round two. That's going to be well, you might be going. I'm actually going to be just getting back into town.
Oh.
But that's now been pushed to March 30th.
Yeah.
And that's just, 10 minutes from your house?
Yeah, it's 10 minutes. I'll definitely be going.
So, yeah. Going to go check that one out. That'll be the first round of UTV racing. And then Crossroads actually ran their first round this weekend as well. But again, no UTV racing, at least that I'm aware of.
I didn't hear anyone I know talking about going to it at all.
Which is usually a pretty good indication that nothing was happening.
Right. So, all the racing season has officially kicked off. It's not just the AXCC race that happened in Texas 2 weeks ago. It's now all the Indiana series are in swing and stuff is going on.
And the side-by-side sports.
Yep.
Chasing the Triple round one is, been officially scored, and they actually have a three-way tie at the top, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
The sportsman class isn't really eligible for that top prize if you King of the Elements. You basically have to be pro stock or pro mod.
Right.
And so that left them with, in theory, two different people that could be in contention.
Mm-hmm.
However, that got changed up just a little bit.
I heard slight rumors of changings. We don't know why yet, but...
Yeah, Tyler Livingston took the pro mod and... so 25 points for first place, 23 points for second.
Yeah.
But he was docked 2 points, and I can't find a reason why. There's a video with CJ and Johnny Greaves saying, hey, here's the trophy, and there's 3 people in contention, and this is the reason why, because Tyler Livingston they just said a minor infraction. He was docked 2 points, which put him back to 23 points. So now... he and second place are effectively tied, and then you've got your winner of the pro stock class.
Right.
That made it all the way up to the top. So...
I don't know. We don't know
interesting.
Why.
Yeah. It's odd to me that I can't really find a readily available reason. Somebody out there, I'm sure, knows and can point me to a website or whatever, but looking on their Facebook page, looking on their actual website, and everywhere else, doing a Google search, I cannot find any particular reason. So it must have been... might have clipped a corner a little, more than they allowed, or
a pit infraction or something like that.
It's short course, so it's not like XC where you've got 9 miles of track and you cut somewhere, really. I mean, everybody's looking, you're right there.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it was some sort of pit infraction or something along those lines.
Could be.
But I don't know. It's bizarre. I was going to look up real quick and see if I could
find anything on
My phone is very unhappy with me right now. Go figure.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So... MWXC is running still right now while we're recording this, but no side-by-sides. Crossroads ran this weekend. Next weekend coming up, we have AXCC, round 2.
And it's going to be my first round.
It'll be round 1 for Doug.
Which is really exciting. But the weather looks awesome.
The weather's going to be great, I think.
The forecast for Tennessee is basically upper 60s and sunny.
Yep.
And... no precipitation so far. Which
is completely different than what it was in Texas 2 weeks ago when it was like 30 and overcast and stupid high winds. And
yeah, I got to be honest, I'm not super sad that I missed that. In fact, I called Andy Kiner this week and talked to him for a bit, and I told him, I said, man, I really wish I could be there at round 1. He's like, no,
you didn't want to. No.
You didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. There's been some interesting shakeups there too, because all of a sudden people are wanting to get into the pro. They don't call it pro mod. What's AXCC?
I don't remember.
Pro Turbo.
Pro Turbo is what they call it. Yeah.
So there's people now that are thinking they want to be in that class, and so there's somebody that showed up in that class that wasn't there in round 1.
But they're keeping it pretty tight.
They are. It's not an open class. You can't just go and sign up and race.
Right. It's not like so any of these local series, for you guys that haven't raced or haven't been through the process before, if you want to race a local, say, MWXC race where you're the pro heavies or the pro turbos, or depending which series it is and what they call it, we'll say the top tier guys, you can race. You can be in an 800 and race it. You can be in a 900. You can be in a 1000. You can be in a XP Turbo. You can be in an X3. Any of those qualify. So you just pay more to enter is what it ends up being. Now the payout's bigger too. So, and there is a payout when some of the other classes are not.
Yes.
But with AXCC, it is not an open invitation to just sign up for whatever you want. You have to, for both Pro Turbo and Pro Am, Turbo and Pro Am, just NA, you have to submit a letter of resume. You have to be accepted and approved into the classes prior to the weekend.
And they're wanting letters of recommendation from somebody they trust,
Right.
or your resume can be, GNCC. I think in the Pro
Right.
Turbo, if you finished in the top 20, you could apply and get in. But
Right.
you had to be somebody who had some sort of credibility and that they had a record of, okay, you're not just some new guy that's never been in a side-by-side and bought a brand new X3.
Correct. And there were other approved
Yeah.
series, like I think they were taking Works and some other, maybe Torque. I'm not sure if there are several series that they were saying, show us your race resume by your finishes in these other accepted series, and that will kind of prove out that you know what you're doing. There's guys even that we run around with and we talk with in the local series who are good enough probably to run in those in the pro row, but they don't have a race resume. They haven't done anything with it yet. They haven't reached out to any other companies to get a resume together for them. So, or a letter of recommendation together for them. So they're going to have to run either AM or maybe get into Pro-Am. But even that requires a letter of recommendation and everything.
I think regardless of, if you can't get into the class you want, I think there's opportunities to move up and to prove yourself, but you just, you may have to start wherever you can start. But I appreciate the fact that they're trying to keep the competition healthy.
Right.
By weeding out people that may have no business being there.
Yeah.
And you might be the baddest side-by-side driver in the world that nobody's ever heard of, but you got to have somebody that vouches for you. And I like that system.
I also like that they've kind of locked the classes down so you don't get these rogue people that just come in
yes.
and mess with the points.
Like us.
Well, yeah, but we're not racing. It's not on our
Yet. No.
So, yeah, I do like that they've kind of locked the classes down. Basically, if you weren't thinking of making them AXCC being them, if you weren't thinking of making AXCC your kind of main series and you weren't planning ahead for it, they're just like, hey, come run, but you're not going to run with the big guys.
Yeah.
You're going to run in a different class. And that's fine, but you have to be serious about it.
So that's coming up round 2. I'll actually be there and I'll be in the woods with the camera, hopefully going to get some really good coverage beyond just the spots where, most people are allowed to congregate, because you are not allowed in the woods. We're actually getting press credentials from them, which is,
Nice.
a little bit different setup than the average person just showing up to watch the race. So hopefully we'll bring you some interesting stuff from a little deeper into the track.
Hey, I'll be in the woods with a camera too, but I'll be strapped in side by side.
Just don't yell, camera off or whatever.
No. So I think we talked about it, but Steve's GoPro, he had set the voice recognition to on, and it had always been there. And he asked, hey, is the GoPro still clean? And the GoPro it heard GoPro stop recording, and it turned itself off. So we got like the first 2 minutes of the race.
This is how machines will eventually take over the planet. It'll be one missed command that, I thought you said kill all humans. And that'll be it.
No. So yeah, but we'll have the camera going. Hopefully it records the whole race in there, and Steve's looking to defend his first place finish from round 1.
Amazing finish. Unprecedented.
Because he's never done it before. And there was only two of us.
There's only 2 in the class. Totally beyond the point. Well, the thing is now he's got full throttle. We talked about this last time too.
Yeah.
The AIM device actually picked up on the fact that his throttle, basically the tip him was at 65%, which gives you about 80% of the total throttle available. So he was missing the top 20%
of his throttle.
And now he's got that fixed.
now he'll be a blazing speed in the woods, just a blur.
Well, and the fact that you were telling him to slow down, that whole race was weird. I don't know what to make of that.
That race was rough. Every racer who we talked to, race PM, every one of them and their co-drivers all said, "I'm glad that's over."
Beat
It was
to death.
It was a beat you up track. And the reason I was telling Steve to slow down, I didn't tell him to slow down until we lapped the only other guy in our class. And at that point I said, we just have to keep moving. As long as we keep moving, he won't lap us because we're not going to let him around. So as long as we keep moving, we're going to win our class.
Yeah, but you don't need to push at that point.
No, there's 0 point because we're not going to win overall. We aren't that fast. We just weren't. There's no sense to pushing and beating the machine up.
Nope, I agree.
And that track was rough on tires. Several people had problems. Devin Smith had a hole in his sidewall big enough you could put my fist in it, and it was just packed with mud, and you could see all the tire balls. I could see about 4 of them or 5 of them.
They're all just coated.
Packed with mud.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was interesting. But we've kind of hashed through all that already.
But back to the, I finally was able to pull this up. I don't know why my phone was being so difficult. So the side-by-side sports round 1 there, they called it Twin Bridge Takedown. That was the first round of chasing the triple.
Yep.
So Tyler Livingston did take the top spot, which is 25 points, but then he had a negative 2-point adjustment.
Right.
So that puts him at 23 points, which ties him with second place Jimmy Henderson.
Okay.
And then in the pro stock, you had Scotty Waz took the top honors there, so he's got 25 points. So basically, you have 2 second-place finishers that are tied, in essence. I mean, I know Tyler took first, but points-wise, he looks like second place.
Right.
So you got 2 there, and then you've got Scotty Waz up at the top of pro stock with 25 points.
Yeah.
So you have 3 people in contention right now when the idea was there was only going to be 2 at this point.
Right.
So that could be interesting to follow.
We'll see what happens with the second race, because assuming that none of those 3 win or place in the top couple of 3 spots, well, they would have to just win for the King of the Elements. But if none of them win, the King of the Elements is completely unwinnable by anyone.
That's very true. Yeah.
So,
because it's a very short series, and the penalty for not showing up for one of them or for having a bad showing is you basically are out of contention.
Yeah.
So it's a very much all or nothing series, and it's going to be interesting too, because the first one was first weekend in March. This next one coming up is in May. I think it's the second weekend in May.
Yeah, something like that.
And then there's a gap all the way to October 5th.
Yeah.
So there's a huge gap, and then October 5th is the one down in Texas.
Yeah.
Which is supposedly going to be the XC race, but
it's not XC.
It's a different thing in Texas, that's for sure.
Yeah, they were talking about it in a press thing that we went to, and their version of XC is like, can I fit a 1-ton dually through it? Yes, that's about as tight as
we
they're
are
going to make
technically
it.
going across part of the country, so yes, it qualifies. But it is kind of interesting. We don't really get into the brand wars here because every UTV has their merits. But in pro stock, the YXZs took the top 3 spots.
That's not overly surprising to me, though. And it shouldn't really be surprising to anybody, because the course that they had set up there at Twin Bridge was really a lot like short course. There was no jumps, no hills, no nothing. I mean, it was flat. It was ice. It was short course. It was very tight track.
Yes.
And the YXZs do amazingly well in that. That is just what they do well.
And there are turbo kits available for them. There's a GYTR turbo kit,
right,
but most of them you see run are stock. And so when they're up against other NA machines, they just do really, really well.
Yeah.
And they were kind of the first dominant short course machine. The X3s caught up to them.
Right.
At least in the pro mods, where we got people putting turbos on them. But
yeah,
they're really, in pro stock, they were the first super dominant machine, and they continue that to this day. They just work really well in that short course type of format. And I know this was an ice race, but it was a short course ice race.
Yeah. And I think the YXZ, where they really stand out for short course, is their suspension. Now, their suspension's also a limiting factor for me in the woods with them.
True.
Their suspension does not articulate a bunch. Their suspension is very flat. I want to say it doesn't have a lot of travel, but it has almost as much travel as the others, but it just doesn't articulate well.
No, they're really set up to corner flat and corner hard in a short course style race.
Right.
They're just not built for XC racing. I mean, that wasn't their intention in mind when they built it.
But when they came out, it'll dominate in that, and then they started doing gear reduction and.
Well, you're never going to have a new machine and say, "Well, it's probably going to stink here, but we'll try it anyway."
Yeah.
You never know until you put it out there. I mean,
that's true.
But it was kind of interesting to me, at least, to see that they held up really well in the ice race as well.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of attrition there, drivetrain problems and motor problems. Several people completely toasted motors.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that they held up well there.
Yep, I agree. So that's come up. I'm kind of excited to see what the next side-by-side sports race is going to be, because it's basically 50% asphalt, 50% dirt, kind of a short course / enduro track. I mean...
Yeah, I can't remember. I think we posted a video a number of episodes back where they had something kind of similar to that.
Right.
It was over in Europe.
Yeah.
And they're basically lowering the suspension, getting those things flat, putting street tires on them, or like the Hoosier racing tires, right. That style.
Something with a deep, big groove. And
they're running basically half on asphalt, half on dirt. And so it sounds like it's going to be pretty similar to that style.
Right. So I'm looking forward to that, because that'll be a completely different style. Well, I say that, but it's not completely different than ice racing short course. You're running short in suspension, not a lot of travel needed.
Yeah.
Whereas round 3, if it's anything like a normal XC, they said there's going to be logs and stuff. So
they have to import trees into Texas?
Maybe. Well, they got scrubby trees.
They don't have trees like we have here, though.
No.
You say there's a tree down on the track here. That's a real problem.
Yeah, it's like you're not getting around it.
So that's going to be May 18th and 19th, and that's just over, not too far from here. It's outside of Chicago.
Yeah.
I think it's technically in Wisconsin. I think it's technically just across the border, but I can't remember for sure.
I'll have to look. That would be one I would like to...
There's a Learn More button here. Let me click that.
That would be one I would like to go and see, because it's reasonably close.
Yeah, it's Shawano, Wisconsin, but I believe that is kind of like just across the Illinois border. So, for us, maybe 5-6 hour drive or whatever.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
I don't know what else is going on that weekend, but maybe worth looking into.
Well, I wonder what the Magic Racing calendar says. So that is MWXC. That's also Mother's Day weekend.
That's not gonna be great.
Yeah, that's MWXC round 5. That's the only other thing going on that weekend.
Mom,
other than
go
Mother's
watch
Day.
A race?
I just bought you a ticket, Mom, to something you'll really enjoy.
Or won't.
Or won't. But you'll be with your son, and that's what counts.
It counts.
Yeah. So the timing of that's a little funky, but
less than ideal.
Oh, no, I lied. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I can't read a calendar. That is the weekend after. So, no, we're free and clear.
Hey.
There we go. The 18th and 19th, MWXC is the only other competing thing. The weekend after that, the 25th and 26th, is the next AXCC round. That'd be round 4.
Where's round 3?
Round 3 is...
That's in
April sometime.
Like end of April, mid-April?
27th and 28th. Yeah. So there's almost a month gap to round 4. So in theory, you got Chasing the Triple, the second round, and then the next weekend, AXCC round 4.
Yeah.
That's kind of exciting. There's some good stuff there.
There's lots of good racing coming up. There really is.
But speaking of the brand wars, we have talked a fair amount about the Talon.
So, yeah.
So yeah.
A lot of people have...
There's been videos circulating.
So let's start out with... Let's do this chronologically, because Honda hosted basically a reviewers party thing.
Yes.
Like a get-together out in Utah, I believe it was. And they had people come out that were known social media people that had big channels, us not included. We're not big enough.
Shocking.
And they had them come out to check out the new side-by-side. This kind of practice is not uncommon at all, to have social media people, different off-road magazines and websites come out and do things and, drive a side-by-side. What is not very common is what Honda actually did was they in all the other review things that all the other companies do, they pay your way. They pay your flight, they buy your food, they put you up in a hotel, whatever, because you're traveling to do this.
Sure.
That is completely normal. I have zero issue with that. What Honda did, from what I have been told, is they actually paid these people to come out and review them on top of paying for hotels and food and all that.
So they actually got a paycheck for being there.
They got a paycheck for being there. That is a big conflict of interest to me. I would not do that.
I agree. That makes it really hard to be unbiased. You might get your check for the one, but, you know, hey, we paid you to come out and you said you didn't like it. So
right.
You're never coming back again. Now you've got that in the back of your mind.
Yeah. So pretty much all of the people that went out there said that, oh, the Talon's great. And all of the reviews, these have all been video and YouTube reviews and everything else. Pretty much all of them that I've watched all have this, I may sound very negative here about this, but they all have a tinge of being a paid advertisement. The videos didn't have the same feel that their other videos of these channels had. The people didn't act the same. They didn't joke around like they normally would. It was very different. And these are people that they've shown other reviews from different places. So I kind of questioned it. Also, some of the things that I could hear that the people wouldn't comment on, being wheel hop and chatter, or they would say, yeah, it's got some, but it's this or it's that. Wheel hop is wheel hop. I know what it sounds like, and they wouldn't really address it. It just made me skeptical. Now, all this is saying one place or one news outlet did not act the same way. The one being Fisher's ATV.
Yes.
With Brian Fisher, and I can't remember his son's name right now. I'm wanting to say it's Cody, but I don't remember that for sure. Anyway, Brian Fisher and his son both did the review, and they came back and they didn't say it was a piece of junk. No. And that's pretty much what I expect.
And we've never thought it was one.
Right. I never assumed it to be. But what they really did say, it was kind of their conclusion after an hour-long thing of watching it was hyped to be a better machine than what it ended up being. It is a fine machine. It's just not this pure sport, ripping, snorting animal that it was, it's going to take out all the competition.
Right. And that's been our inkling from day one. Now, we haven't ridden in one yet.
Nope.
We actually are working on that fairly soon. We're going to have our chance to get our hands on one. And obviously, we're going to bring you a very straightforward review of what we think. We'll tell you what we like. We'll tell you what we don't. But it's created a lot of discussion because the guys who are basically Honda, I don't want to say Honda fans like it's a bad thing, but they've always been loyal to Honda, want this machine to succeed. And I understand it. And it's not a bad thing for any part of the UTV market to have some healthy competition.
I agree.
And on the other side, you've got guys that are saying, no, it's a piece of junk, it's underpowered, yada, yada, yada. They want it to fail. And you kind of get that dichotomy. Anytime something new comes out, people either love it or hate it.
Right.
But there's been videos that have been posted from... there's basically been a couple different outlets, but they're coming from Kenny Gurdon.
Yeah.
And he's shown 3 drag racing videos that you're probably watching right now if I've done my job correctly.
Yep.
The first one is the new Talon against a YXZ of, I don't know what year it is specifically, but it's a YXZ.
Because the videos were all filmed on potatoes?
Yeah, the start of the video is very grainy, and then it's, it kind of catches up and you get a higher def, but that's after the race has started. And then it's a Razor, what appears to be just an XP1000.
Right.
So 3 naturally aspirated machines. I don't know if the YXZ was an SS or if it was, standard clutch type of setup. Don't know. What you see in the video is that the Talon gets off the line quicker. I don't mean jumps. I mean, it just gets off the line quicker than the other ones.
Right.
And before anything else, you see him run, the Talon's in the lead the whole way, and then the YXZ appears to pull out of the throttle thinking the race is done. The Talon kind of stays in it a little bit longer.
Right.
Talon wins the race.
The XP 1000 was not even really in the race.
No.
I mean, he was in it, but he wasn't a contender for winning.
Right. The next two that have been posted, you don't get to see the start of the race. You just see them coming around a shallow curve. The first race I saw was the Talon versus a Razor XP1000,
Yep.
and that Razor was a 2014.
Yep.
So it's got a little mileage on it, and it was gear reduced.
Now, that wasn't stated in the original video. That is another guy who was there stated down in the comments, and assuming it's still in the comments or someone didn't pull it, but that Razor is 30% gear reduced and has some other accessories on it. Now, those accessories we don't know. So it's not really an apples to apples race there, because all we're seeing is the big end of the race, or the final,
Yeah, you're seeing the end where they're
feet.
showing that the Talon won by about 2 buggy lengths.
Right.
But you don't get to see the start of the race, and nothing's told you other than that. If you just watch the video, it's a Talon versus a Razor, and the Talon wins.
Right.
What you don't know is, again, it's gear reduced 30%, so it's out of RPM.
Right. It's running at its top by that point, I'm sure.
And, just being a few years old, it's no secret that ponies escape the motor over time.
Right.
So that's the second race I saw. The third one was versus a 2016 XP 1000 Turbo.
Right. XP Turbo. Don't call it an XP 1000 Turbo.
Sorry,
You'll
XP
have the
Turbo.
Razor
Yeah,
fanboys climbing the walls.
It's actually a 925.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the XP Turbo wins that race again by a couple buggy lengths, but it's much, much closer than people expected it to be. But again, it's a 2016.
So a few horses have escaped the barn as it is.
Yes, and it's also on 32s.
Right.
So, and again, without knowing the tires, if those are a big, heavy carcass like, say, Baja Cross,
Yeah.
you could have a bunch of extra rotating mass. There's just a bunch of unknowns, and you also, once again, you're seeing the final curve and straightaway. You don't know how the race started.
Right.
All this is to say, I'm not saying the Talon's a bad machine. It hung in there with them. And I don't expect to hate this machine at all.
No.
But now we have video that's suggesting that the Talon is somehow better than a lot of the field out there, but this isn't an apples to apples comparison. And without knowing specifics about the race, you can't tell anything definitively from these videos.
Right. I don't assume...
I'm willing to entertain that it's possibly faster than a stock XP 1000. There's a chance that it is.
It could be.
But you can't tell from this.
No. So Side by Side blog guys did a real good comparison when the Double X, when they actually got their hands on one at their place. They lined they ran them one at a time first to see what their top speed was in a given distance.
Sure.
Measured off of a radar gun that they had. How accurate was it? We don't know, the radar gun, but it was the same radar gun for every one of them, so that it was at least calibrated between them all the same. So, good enough. They were all doing this on the same day, everything else. So the ground was the same tackiness. All the machines, they did one whole video the first time where they kind of did what this guy did, what Kenny had done. And it was like, oh, well, that machine's got a tune, and this one has a windshield, and this one's running different size tires. For the second setup, when they were testing with the Double X, they had a stock XP 1000 with stock wheels and tires, no windshield, no tune, against a stock Double X and a stock YXZ with stock wheels and tires. I mean, they really went above and beyond to get machines that are all the same.
Yeah.
And that is, in my opinion, what really needs to happen, and whether they do it or whatever happens, to do against the Talon, to see, okay, what's it really like?
And we're not rooting for it to fail. We're not rooting for it to succeed. We just want to see what it does on its own merits without... It's not what happened on these videos to me is not any kind of scientific proof of anything.
No.
And honestly, if you like the Talon, go buy it. It doesn't have to be quote unquote better than an X3 or better than a Razor. It just has to be what you like. Go plunk down your cash and vote with your wallet.
Right.
But some of these videos are becoming irritating now because you can't tell anything from them, and yet people are throwing it around like, see, definitive proof.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great machine. I think it's going to be Honda reliable.
I do too.
And there's a lot of chatter out there that it's already basically turbo capable, kind of like the YXZ is from the factory.
Right.
So there could be a lot of legs here, and that's all fine and dandy. I'm reluctant to give it a bunch of accolades this early on without any kind of... I haven't ridden in it, I haven't driven it, and I haven't seen anything on social media anywhere that gives me oh yeah, that was a completely fair shakedown and it won.
Right.
I just haven't seen it yet. So I'm going to reserve judgment until I have a little more information.
If you remember back to when the YXZ released, and we've talked about this twice now in this episode, but the YXZ was touted as, when it came out, it was a pure sport driving, and it was the fastest, baddest thing. And there were videos out of it just whipping on razors and everything else. It'll do the trails. It's an East Coast machine every bit as much, and it's faster than the razors, and it's this and that. Well, give it 6 months, and all of a sudden it's like, that wasn't totally accurate, those videos and those claims.
Yeah.
People were... okay, I needed to put the recluse clutch in it because it was a problem. And then, we had to drop the gear reduction in it because it wasn't really doing what we needed it to do. And, you get them out in the trails. Okay, it's not really as capable in the trails. I'm sorry if you're a YXZ owner. They just don't do well crawling. They just don't.
No. They're not built for it.
No. So it's like we talked about, the YXZs are better in short course than the razors and the other stuff. They just have different strengths and weaknesses. So I'm not bashing the Talon. I was talking to Steve Mueller, chatting with him last night, I think it was. I'm not looking to see the Talon fail. What I'm looking to do is I'm wanting the Talon to prove itself of all these claims, because the marketing guys are great at saying, oh, this machine can do everything and it's the best and it's, breakthrough innovation and blah, 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 blah. That's great. I want to see it prove it. If it'll prove it, great. I am fully on board. I'm not saying it's a bad machine. I'm sure it'll be great. The thing that I question also that's going to take time to prove out is that four-wheel drive system where it uses the brakes to control it. I don't think that's a great system for the off-road world. Just my opinion. Maybe it'll prove me wrong, and I will be fine admitting that, but that's going to take a little bit of time to either prove it is or it isn't a good thing for the off-road world. 6 months isn't going to prove that out. It's going to take a year or 2 years or something. So,
but I am glad to see, at least initially, it's faster than I thought it was. And not that speed is everything, but it looks like
it's holding its own.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's good to see.
I'm not saying it may end up being the slowest of the naturally aspirated 1000. I'm saying may. And if it is, that's okay, because it's at least reasonably close to the same. Yeah. Even if it is the slowest and these videos were faked or in some way staged, it's at least reasonably close, and that's fine. But I don't think it's like this rocket ship, because if you remember the Double X, they did the exact same thing. Guys saying, oh, the Double X, it's faster than the turbos, and there are videos of people racing it. Well, now they've started actually showing up, and they've been out for a year now plus, and people are, okay, they're not actually as fast as the turbos. They'll hang with the 1000 naturally aspirated that just runs right there. It's like it's an any given day.
Yeah.
Does it have as much traction or less traction than the others? Yes, it's 130 horsepower, but the thing weighs 1,600 tons. It's just big. It's the heaviest side-by-side I've seen in the naturally aspirated world so far. So it weighs a lot. So it all kind of evens out. It's really the same speed as the Razor 1000. Side-by-side blog videos showed that the XP 1000 was actually slightly faster than the Double X. That day, yes. On another day, maybe not. A different machine built with just slightly different tolerances that runs just slightly better. Maybe it's faster.
Yeah.
Or maybe that XP 1000 was just slightly faster. I don't know. But it at least held its own. So my point is, I want to see the Talon prove itself out, not just assume that the marketing, because they said it's the baddest machine on the planet and what we can do more with 104 horsepower than everyone else can do with 110 or 130.
Yeah.
I just don't. I wait for the machine to prove it out.
Yes, we've probably taken a little bit of flack as Honda Talon haters, and that's not the case. We're just waiting for numbers. You and I are not fanboys of anything, really. I mean, we basically like data. We like hard numbers. We like proof, and neither one of us tends to jump on anything until we see that, and we just haven't seen it yet. So I would like the Talon to be as good as I think it is. I just need to have some proof, and I need to get behind the wheel of one, because I think that competition's healthy for the market.
I agree. I think really, and this is you guys can take this as my prediction on the Talon. I think it's going to be a solid performer that is dead reliable, that holds its own with all the other naturally aspirated machines, even though the actual horsepower numbers released from Honda are the lowest of anybody. I think it will perform right in the middle of the pack. That's my prediction. I mean,
that's pretty much where I am too. I'm not gonna restate what you've already said, because I basically think the same thing.
And I'm not trying to just play the middle of the road to try and make it seem like that. Because if it comes out to be the fastest thing, somehow that they've worked out where the horsepower is more efficient getting down, great. Now that's the other argument, and I guess we can address that. Is they say, oh, the direct drive is the most efficient way to.
It was funny. I was going to bring that up. We're not really. It's not on our list as the tech tip of the week, but the argument about the direct drive being more efficient is belt slippage.
If you have belt slippage in your Razor, you have another problem.
That's what I wanted to get to. A lot of people who are unfamiliar with the drive system think that these things are slipping constantly and you're just throwing horsepower out the window.
No.
That's not the case if your machine is adjusted properly and everything is in good working order. If you've got an old crappy belt, if you've got problems with clutch adjustment, if you are running 44-inch tires, or... you get it
any
number
wet
of things,
or anything else.
You bought a set of custom sheaves that weren't machined correctly. I mean, there's all sorts of things that can go wrong, and you will find people that say, "Oh yeah, my belt slips all the time," but that's not normal,
right? Or good.
And it is a very efficient drive system. And they both have their pluses and minuses, and I don't think it's really fair to say one is significantly better than another in this particular application. They both have pluses and minuses. It's just which trade-offs do you want?
So, just to quickly list them out, the CVT, its pluses are you don't have to deal with shifting, obviously. You don't have to deal with a clutch of any sort. It's just, I'm not saying it's mindless, but it's nearly a mindless driving experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you hit the gas, you go forward, you let off, you'll engine brake some and coast to a stop. The style like the Yamaha YXZ and now the Honda Talon are both a direct drive where it's all gear mesh on gear mesh. The problem with them straight away, the problem with the CVT is you have belt wear.
Yes.
You have something that will wear out. It is a wear item. I fully admit that is a replacement item at X interval depending on
and at times has cost people races because the belt's just disintegrated.
Right.
I mean, things can happen.
So moving on to the direct drive systems, the benefit of them is you have the clutch, which is a good and a bad thing. It is a wear item, but it's a much longer term wear item than a belt. But when you let out on that clutch, unless something is severely, severely wrong, you are now directly connected to the transmission via the gears. So that's good, but you have that issue. The major drawback to them, and why actually it's been proven that the YXZs are far more inefficient at getting power down, is the fact that the gears weigh so much more than all the other parts combined.
Yeah.
So you now have more rotating mass, and rotating mass, roughly, when you're talking about that, it accounts for 1 pound of rotating mass is equal to 7 pounds of static weight on a machine. So it's multiplied. It's robbing the horsepower that much more.
Yes.
I'm wanting to say, like they've shown that CVT style, so either the X3 or the Polaris, those style drives are, I'm wanting to say they lose 16% of the power through them, which is, rough numbers. It all depends. And they've proven already that the Yamahas lose about 20, I think it was 23 or something like that. It's about 5% difference. It's not a ton, but you're giving up 5% of your horsepower.
Now, supposedly the Talon, I've seen anecdotal, evidence about this. I have not seen hard numbers, but I've heard some comments that the Talon puts down 1 horsepower more at the rear wheels than a XP1000 does. Now, that would be saying that the CVT is significantly less efficient because your XP1000's got 110 horse, the Talon's 104.
Correct.
But I haven't actually seen the numbers. I've just heard people state that, and I've seen kind of passive comments, but I haven't seen hard numbers that actually support that.
Like I said, when the YXZ came out, everyone said, oh, direct drive's a more efficient transmission. Yes and no. It's not in the overall because of the weight, but it's a direct drive. I agree. So when you are fully locked into your top gear, it is more efficient. But getting through all of them because you're turning all these extra gears doesn't give you anything. It actually gives you less. So plus your clutch in and out time and everything else where the CVT doesn't have that. It's all things you have to take into account. So like I said, I think the Talon is going to be a solid performer in the market. I just don't think it's this rock star standout thing that marketing has made it out to be. I just don't buy into marketing. I buy into hard data and facts. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, once all the numbers are in and I can make an informed decision, then I will, put my money where my mouth is, but I just haven't seen it yet. Everything has been, it's like so much of social media and any other kind of media out there. It's not that it isn't true. It's just you don't have the whole story.
Right.
And you can't look at this one thing and say definitively that's the whole story. That's the truth. And I just haven't seen that yet.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
No. And the machine's so new to the market that the only people that have really bought them so far are people that are Honda fans already.
Yeah.
And so they're going to give you this slighted, view of it because they want it to be the best.
And that's the real tech tip of the day. Don't feel bad about your machine. If you bought it and you're happy with it, good for you. It doesn't have to be quote unquote better in somebody else's mind. You don't have to convince them. You're not, you are not getting paid by Can-Am to proselytize everybody out there that, the X3 is better or the Talon is better or whatever is better.
Yep.
If you're happy with it,
good enough.
Be happy with it.
Enjoy it and ride it.
There's really not a bad machine on the market, which makes it a great time to be alive.
Yeah. All of them are great. And I would really, if there were no more Polarises tomorrow and I had to get a new machine, I would be fine with jumping to another brand. It wouldn't hurt my feelings at all.
Yeah. The price performance is really what pushed you that way more than anything.
Right.
I mean,
that's a big part of it. But next machine, I may switch brands. May not. Don't know.
Ooh, going to be hated by everyone.
It's fine.
Well, you've had a Yamaha, you've had a CF Moto, you've now got a Razor. I mean, I
wouldn't mind a Can-Am product. I wouldn't mind I've said it before, I wouldn't mind the XX. I just wish it'd come out with a turbo model.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind a Honda. Actually, the price, and I will say this about the Honda. What really surprised me is the price is not that bad for a naturally aspirated machine. No,
I mean, they came in there right at $20K, which
is right on par with the XX. It's a little more than the 1000 XP, the Polaris. It's really about the same as Can-Am's offering. I mean, it's right in that wheelhouse. And I was really expecting Honda to be priced premiumly.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. They came in to challenge the market price-wise. We'll see what the performance of the machine does. That's jury's still out there.
And the X3, the 900 HO, is a good machine, but I honestly, based on everything I've seen so far, it looks like the Honda's going to be faster than that.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, speed isn't everything, but it speaks to power to weight and everything else.
Yep.
So
now I do think the 900 HO probably handles better.
Probably
because it sits lower.
It's that low slung.
It's that X3 design.
Yeah,
they tend to handle better. I think it probably handles better than the XP 1000 too, unless you do some serious work to the XP 1000.
Yeah,
I would say the XX and the naturally aspirated X3 are probably close.
Well, the XX has probably got it by a mile in suspension because the HO has it has a shortened stroke and.
Well, but I'm saying handling. You know, if you're just on a short course, flat track, and the two will be real close. Yeah, in my opinion.
So it's an interesting market now, and Honda's entered at they're a little bit late to the game in terms of.
They seem to have brought a decent gun to the fight.
They did their research.
Right.
I'm happy with it. So
I'm just waiting for it to prove itself out, and that's fine.
Prove it to me. Don't just tell me it's the best. And that's really where we're coming from. We're reserving final judgment until we know.
Yep.
So our actual tech tip this week, we want to talk about gauges. That's been a big, I don't know, it's not a bone of contention, but there's been a lot of discussion because in AXCC, if you're running in the Pro Turbo class, you have to have AIM device.
Right. And it's suggested for all other classes also, but...
And so the AIM device basically, on a very, very basic level, gives you GPS tracking functionality. But you can also, depending on the one you buy, tie a lot of other sensors into it. You can get engine performance data, you can get belt temps, you can, log your oil temperature for the whole race if you want.
Yeah, your coolant temperatures, your everything.
So you can get all that data and go back and pore over it later, which is exactly how Steve found his throttle issue that he didn't even know existed.
Right.
So, gauges. You need them.
Which one? There are so many.
Let's say you got a brand new buggy.
Yep.
You're going to go race this thing.
Okay.
You only have money for one gauge.
Belt temp gauge, if it's a CVT. If it's a CVT.
I knew the answer, but I want to see how quick you said it.
Right away. So, and I would do a Razorback because they are infrared. It is read off the belt itself and not read off of the air that is being blown out of the CVT at that point.
Because that can be very misleading depending on a number of factors.
Right. But if I was only allowed to pick one gauge, 100% I would do that. Now, here's the kind of kicker. So you tell me what you would do. Razorback being obviously the premier belt temp gauge out there. So in the AIM device that is about $600, you also get a belt temp gauge that is infrared, that is read the exact same way with nearly the exact same sensor. The AIM device is $600. The belt temp gauge is $300. That is their prices. The AIM device gives you so much more data, it's not even funny.
True.
Which way would you go? It is double the money. I'm not arguing that at all.
I'm racing.
Yep.
I go AIM.
I would go AIM all day long, too.
I want the data logging. I want to know what the machine is doing.
Now, what if you're not racing? What if you're just trail riding? Because I think if you're trail riding, you should have something to tell you what your belt is doing.
Yeah, if I'm just trail riding, I go belt temp gauge because I'm not looking back. If I'm trail riding and it breaks down, it's unfortunate, but it's, it might be the end of my day, might even be the end of my weekend, depending on how severe it is. But I go home, I fix it, no big deal. I paid my $45 to get into the park and whatever.
Right.
But if I'm racing and I'm in contention for a season and mid-season the car doesn't feel right, I want to be able to go back and look at historic data and say, well, that's weird. All of a sudden this, my oil temps are fluctuating wildly or something weird's going on. I want to be able to go back and have something to take a look at and see if I can pinpoint what's possibly going on. Because some of these races now, we talked about this, several different times on different podcasts as the season was ramping up. Some of the entrance fees now are $350 in a pro class or more. And even in, Pro-Am or the
side-by-side sports, like $1,500.
Yeah.
Or $1,200, something like that. It's very expensive.
And even AXCC, and this isn't a knock, but even the Pro-Am is...
Pro-Am Turbo is $150.
$150. That's not chump change for a lot of people. So if you're in contention and you've been paying a lot of money to race and you've been driving all over the U.S. to do it, I think you want to be able to have historical data and know how your machine's performing and know if something does break, you've got something to go back on and take a peek.
I'm just saying, because one of the other things that I guess we didn't talk about with AXCC is they're on site at, I think they're going to do it at each one of the races. They have an AIM representative there. And I thought, when they told us this, because they made that announcement and Andy had talked about it, I think on the podcast even, when he was on, that it was going to be an AIM representative. And I thought, okay, it's going to be, a sales guy or, a marketing guy, or they'll have someone there who can answer some basic questions. It was not. It was the guy who writes the programming for it.
Yeah.
Right there.
Exactly.
It was really nice and he had spare sensors, spare full devices with him. We got to see a prototype of AIM is coming out with a belt temp monitor only. It's basically they're going after Razorback.
Okay.
It has another feature, and I can't remember what the other feature is. It measures something else also, and it'll display it, but I don't remember what it is right now. But and it does a few more things, like it holds the average and the maximum longer and whatever. It does different things. So that's little, I guess, forward news that's coming at some point.
Yeah.
So, but it was really nice to have the AIM guy there. But what brought my whole question about was when I was sitting there talking to him, it's like he said, Razorback's $300, ours is $600. If you're starting a fresh build and you're going to race it, which one are you buying? It's like, it seems to make sense to buy the AIM if you're racing.
Yeah.
Is it expensive? Yeah, but basically you're getting mountains of data. It is nuts the amount of data you're getting.
Well, and again, I know I've mentioned it twice, but Steve Mueller flushed out a problem.
Right.
You would not have gotten that with just a belt temp gauge.
No, he would
You might have
never
raced
known.
an entire another season. And maybe at some point he gets a new flash and they do a different tune and all of a sudden he's like, man, this thing runs a lot better. You'd never know why.
No, it would all be just, I guess my other tune was crappy. And he's loaded multiple tunes.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of an interesting thing. And I guess on the belt temp gauge, the Razorback is kind of the premier one on the market. But let's, again, go back to trail riding. Do you want to spend $300 if you're just trail riding?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
That's
curious.
me.
Yeah.
Because for me, whenever I'm building a trail machine, and Doug, you can attest to this, I build it to always get it home.
It doesn't always make it home, but you build it that way.
I build it that way. No, I build it to know that it'll make it home.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I know this kind of goes against what we were saying about the Talon almost. The CVT is one of those, it's inside, it's internal from the factory. There's no information given on what's going on in there. It's the only thing I don't know about. So if I have a belt temp monitor,
Yep.
I can see what it's doing. If it's getting hot in there, I can either change to a spare belt that I always carry, or I can back off the throttle and stop hammering on it so hard, and I can get back. But if you don't know, you're just in trouble.
Now, if you've got a Razor like yours that just has the basic display, you don't have the full
I don't have ride command.
You don't have ride commands where you can see multiple pieces of data all at the same time.
Right.
What other gauges do you want to see on a regular basis that you don't have to reach over and flip through the display to see? Like, what do you want to be able to look down and see?
As far as if I was buying another aftermarket gauge?
Yeah, let's say we're going to race the Acre Shaker tomorrow. What do you want to be able to see at a glance?
I like to see boost, and I do have a gauge for that. I have a Evolution gauge, I think.
Yes, it is.
I have that because that will give me symptoms of another problem.
Sure.
If it's all of a sudden gone into limp mode, I can see, okay, is it retarding boost? Is my blow-off valve stuck? Is something happening? It gives me indications of that. My Razor will show temperature and it will show RPM. Voltage is nice. It shows that, but I can't see all that on my basic display. That would be another nice one to see. Is that super important for an hour-long race?
Probably
I would say
not.
normally it's not an issue. But yeah, boost is another one that I like to keep an eye on, especially as a turbo machine, because it indicates other things. So, but I mean, if you're running the AIM, it does that. It tells you that.
Exactly.
And you can set up, it's got quadrants where you can set it up like that.
So by the time you buy a Razorback and a good boost gauge and possibly, a volt gauge, gauge, or I'm not a huge oil pressure gauge guy, simply because usually by the time the gauge tells you there's a problem, there's other, signs like
Who's got the rattlesnake in the bed of my Razor?
Like, rods escaping the block, that sort of thing.
Right. Huh.
So, I mean, it can be helpful, but I'm not a huge, you got to have an oil pressure gauge. Because usually by the time it goes to zero, you've already noticed that because other horrible things have happened.
Right.
But by the time, let's say you buy 3 decent, gauges that you need, you're in AIM money.
Right.
You're getting close.
Now, I will say and AIM is coming out with a newer screen, even the rep there told us that. But the current screen that they have, you can see it just fine. It is not super flashy like the Ride Command where it's a nice TV.
No.
Like what they're actually coming out with here in the near future, I think it's the end of this year he was talking about, it will be it's literally a miniature TV in it. And it will be full color, full everything. So it's going to be nice.
I'm already picturing the inside of Steve's Razor in my head with 18,000 switches and the full ride command, and now a brand new aim with the fancy screen. And
you don't even need to look out. He'll just drive by looking at the aim device.
Instead of window nets and stuff, just like plate steel all the way. When you get in, you can't actually see. It's like a tank. Just got cameras mounted on the corners.
Yep, that'll be fine. We'll race via camera.
No. We keep logs from jumping up and in.
Yeah, do it. We've got to be getting near time.
It is totally time for trivia.
Okay, so I have your trivia.
I just don't know how he's going to race with all these flashing lights in his face.
No, he's just going to wear like VR goggles.
Nice. Heads-up display.
Yep. All right, are you ready for your trivia, sir?
As I'll ever be.
All right, question number 1. Since you were just in Africa not too long ago, how many countries are there in Africa?
All of them.
All of them that are there.
Wild guess. 23.
54.
Wow.
You were
less than half.
Half right-ish.
Not quite.
There's a lot more than I thought there was.
There's a lot of bigger ones, but you kind of, I mean, if you look at Africa, you see all the big ones like the Republic of Congo and Tanzania and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But you start zooming in, and like Togo is this little tiny slit in there. And
I always kind of picture it like Europe, like they started making countries small and they're like, oh crap. And then they just make them bigger. It's fine.
It was more like there's a lot of big countries and some of these little ones through various political things split off.
Yeah.
And,
all right. Question number 2. How many islands make up Scotland?
110.
790.
Are they counting like every floating bottle cap as an island? Like what?
There's a piece of dirt sticking up there out of the water.
Technically, that twig sticking out of the water.
Count it.
Island. Yeah, those can't all be usable, but I'm sure there are a bunch of little
I don't know what they classify.
Tall sandbars.
Yeah, I don't know what they classify as an island, but I'm sure there has to be a size limit. But
wow, that is a lot, though.
There's a lot more than I thought, too. All right, question number 3. This one's great. It's for the hometown of Martinsville. How many Americans live in mobile homes?
Okay, is this purely trailers, or are we considering modular built?
I believe it's just considered like trailers, not modulars.
Gotcha. So actual...
And this is...
They've got the skirt around them. If you pull the skirting off, there's wheels. You can tow
if I want to move, I just bolt my tires back on.
Gotcha.
But I do want to clarify, it's how many Americans live in, not how many mobile homes are there.
Yeah, because you could have...
Right. You could have
people in one.
Or 20 sometimes. But I just did want to clarify, so...
Okay, the population of the U.S. is about 360 million, so it's going to be... I'm going to go 10%. I'll go 36 million.
200 million.
I was really hoping it wasn't going to be that number, but there it is.
200 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the old jokes about tornadoes and mobile home parks.
It really can't be wrong.
There's
so many.
It's just odds are. It's not even funny now. It's just, that figures.
Yeah. All right. Question number 4. Name the only place in the U.S. that grows coffee commercially.
California?
Nope. Hawaii.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. I kind of figured you'd get that one, actually.
Oh.
But no, Hawaii.
Well, California grows just about everything.
They do.
Like, maybe not a ton of it, but they grow a little bit of everything.
Right.
So.
And there's probably people in California that do grow coffee.
Just not commercially.
Yeah. And I don't know what they're quantifying commercially as, like, because maybe it's for sale at a local farmer's market, but I think they mean on full commercial scale.
Yeah.
So I wasn't trying to be misleading in my question.
No.
All right.
There you go.
We seem to have a lot of geography in here, but question number 5. How many islands make up the Philippines?
Why? Why are you doing this?
Because it's funny, and I like watching you squirm.
When I said I like trivia, this is not at all what I had in mind. The Philippines?
Yep.
Okay, give me an over or under versus Scotland.
It is over Scotland.
1,282.
7,641 islands make up the Philippines.
I'm telling you, there are 3/4 of those are the size of this table.
Maybe. I don't know what they classify as an island.
That's amazing.
It's a lot of islands.
Never would have guessed.
I would not have either. All right, question number 6. Falling asleep in less than 5 minutes is an indication of what?
Being tired.
That's probably
Winner!
true.
Internet points for me.
That's probably true, but it is an indication of a problem. What is the indication of the problem?
Oh, frick, I've got a problem. Dude, I never, 2 minutes tops every night.
Oh, yeah, same way. My wife gets mad because she'll be up there trying to fall asleep for an hour. And she said, you'll come up, you'll lay down. She goes, I don't even think your head's hit the pillow and you're out.
It's an indication of low potassium.
Nope, that you are sleep deprived. They say you shouldn't fall asleep that fast.
Bull crap.
You know what I've found that works for me and
That
my
just
wife?
sounds like people who can't fall asleep are mad. So you have a problem.
I've found that my wife refuses to do. If you consciously slow your breathing when you're trying to go to sleep, you will fall asleep faster. And it's scientific fact proven it.
The other thing a lot of people do wrong is it's way too warm when they go to sleep. Really, they've done some testing, scientifical research.
Scientifications.
65 degrees is about perfect. Because your body actually has to cool down for you to go to sleep. And then when you wake up, is actually your body temperature starts rising again as part of the thing.
We hibernate.
Yeah, we do. We kind of
short-term hibernation.
So yeah, I keep it relatively cool in the house at night because I sleep like a rock when I do. If it's 75 degrees, I will lay there and sweat and I'll be miserable.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, question number 7. Speaking of sleep, what percentage of employers allow employees to nap at work?
Where?
Worldwide.
Okay. Well, see, at Japan, it's a normal thing because they expect you to work 168 hours a week, which is all of them if you haven't done the math.
Yeah.
So being asleep at your desk is a sign of commitment. You've not gone home.
I'm going to be very committed and sleep all the time at my desk.
In America, it's generally frowned upon. I don't know what the story in Europe is. So this is a percentage of the population.
Yes.
I'm going to go fairly high. I'll go 65%.
16%.
Aw.
You went way too high.
Well, but I was thinking of a lot siestas are kind of a common thing.
But that's not really at work. They just kind of dismiss people from work for the middle of the day.
Okay. See, I was including that in my head.
Oh, okay.
Because
Sorry.
That's pretty common in hot climates. You don't want to work from noon to 3.
In Mexico.
Yeah, or a lot of places along the equator. It's just too hot. I was figuring them in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know those percentages, but you didn't get it right. So anyway.
Doesn't matter.
Question number 8. When did the U.S. first use daylight savings time? I got a couple daylight savings times in here because
that just
happened and I hate it.
Yes. 1873.
Nope. 1918. And they did it for 1 year and everyone hated it, so they repealed it the next year.
So we just finished up World War I, and hey, let's screw with all the clocks.
Pretty much. Yep.
Sounds like a European thing we brought back.
Yeah. It had to do with that anyway. All right. Question number 9. Studies show how much energy savings by using daylight savings time. So one of the benefits that they list is you save energy because all the clocks are moved back. So it's daylight out when you're up doing things. So you're not running lights and stuff like that, where you would have to be if it was clocks back. So how much energy is saved by using daylight savings time?
This feels like a trick question. I'll go low, 5%.
You are wrong, but you are also right. It was a trick question.
It actually costs, right?
None. The studies have proved we don't save any energy at all.
I knew that was the case, but
you were on to my tricks. You just didn't know how much of a trick.
I was gonna we actually use 10% more or something like that.
Aha. No. All right. Question number 10, last one. Due to daylight savings time, the Monday after the switch, how much longer is the average sentence in a court, or average prison sentence in a court? It is a proven fact that
Because the judge is grumpy.
it truly is because the judge is grumpy, and it is a proven fact that the person who's going in for sentencing the Monday after daylight savings time gets more time tacked on. But what percentage more time tacked on do they get just because the judge is grumpy?
Grumpy judge, 25%.
5%.
I didn't know how grumpy the judge was.
Doug really hates daylight savings.
It is stupid. When we keep
Get 100 years, give him 125.
Well, we keep changing the dates too. Now it runs all the way from the second weekend in March to the first weekend in November.
Yeah.
Why don't we just leave it the hour forward for the other couple months and just whatever? Stop messing.
I just say leave it one way or the other. I don't care which way you leave it, just one way. I don't care.
Well, we did. When did Indiana start doing it?
It wasn't until like 2000 or 2002. I was
going to say about 15, 16 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we didn't used to do it.
I loved it.
It was magical.
It did cause me to be late to a wedding. We've talked about that.
You didn't miss much.
Probably not. They're not even married anymore.
All because of daylight savings time.
I'm not blaming daylight savings time for that one. But
no, there are so many other factors, which we're not going to go into on this show because it's time to wrap it up. We do want to say a big thank you to our sponsors. Of course, our title sponsor, CW Motorsports, over there in scenic Effingham, Illinois.
Yes.
Which is the weirdest town name ever. I would like to know where that came from.
Yeah. Whatever. Moving on.
I always smirk when I say it. Anyways, also from Illinois, we got Spangs Fab. Watch Communications, who has been hosting this whole mess for us. And if you need them to host your stuff for you, the code Waste of Time, all lowercase with no spaces, will get you 1 month of free website hosting. Also, if you live in their service area of Illinois, Ohio, and Indiana, and you don't have good internet options.
You don't have the good interwebs.
Which I finally do here.
He does.
Yay.
So
we'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
Anyways, they can probably hook you up with that as well. Just look them up. And TGM Off-Road, just a great group of guys who like to eat food and occasionally take their UTVs out.
While eating food.
Lots of food in that group. In fact, just this morning, I was browsing through the group and some guy, his post just said Sunday morning, and you just see the grill with smoke billowing out of it. I'm like, yep, that's TGM. I didn't even have to look where the name of it. I knew.
They're cooking.
Yes. So definitely hook up with them. Great group of guys. You can find us on the web at eminentperformance.com. There's a sponsors link on there if you need any information about our sponsors. And I've corrected the Spangs Fab one. Yay.
Good job.
He switched website names. I didn't realize that.
Okay.
So anyways, that's all corrected now. You can also find us on Instagram at Eminent Racing, on Facebook /Eminent Racing. You can find the audio version of this show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. You can find the video version on YouTube. For any of those, just look for Eminent Performance and it will lead you this way. And if you're looking on YouTube, there's a little button in this kind of area.
Yeah, it's about under Doug-ish, depending what size you have the screen set to, cinematic or normal.
But that button will let you subscribe to our channel, and once you've subscribed, you can click the little bell next to it, and that will alert you to any new videos that we've posted, whether it's Eminent Waste of Time or any of the other stuff.
And
we've got some other stuff.
Stuff's coming. So what we were kind of hinting at now, because Doug and the studio now has good interwebs, we are going to finally do a live podcast. So what we want
We're sorry, world.
Yeah. What we want from you guys is, when do you want it? Do you want it on a Friday night? Do you want it on a Saturday morning, a Saturday afternoon? You know, we're just going to have to kind of take the most votes gets the win, and that's when we're doing it.
Yeah.
But what we'll do is we will do a regular-ish format, but we will leave some time to answer your questions, talk to you guys, chat back and forth, do that kind of stuff. Kind of allow you guys to interject your comments into what we're talking about. We've heard many people say that they find themselves talking to the podcast while we're doing it, and this is your chance to actually
usually
kind of sit in on
screaming
it.
or swearing at us.
You're wrong. You're very, very wrong.
That's okay. This will be your chance to tell us that real time.
So, yeah, we're going to do some of those, not a bunch of them, a few here and there is kind of what we're looking at. So, when works best for you guys? We need day of the week and time that works best for you. Please keep in mind we are on Eastern time, so that's what we're going to base everything on.
Eastern Daylight Time specifically.
Yeah, right now. So, yes, we will base all. If you tell us 7, we're going to base it 7 o'clock on Eastern time.
Yes.
That's what we're going to base it on. So we want to hear back from you guys. And it'll probably be a social media post about this sometime in the near future asking. So in case you didn't listen all the way to the end, you'll still get to vote.
And in the meantime, leave us likes or comments or what have you on whatever venue you get the show on, or just drop by our Facebook page and say hi. Basically, we want to hear from you guys. This is your show every bit as much as it's ours, and the UTV community is what makes this whole thing work. So
I feel sorry for you. We're your representation to the UTV world. If it's their show as much as
there
ours.
was a power vacuum and no one stepped in to fill it, so we bought some microphones and here we are.
Here we are. Yeah. So that's what we got. We have reached the end of the show once again.
Anything stupid this week? Kind of glossed over that.
I can't think of anything. We need to get stuff on the list.
We've been too busy to be stupid.
That's not true at all. Gosh, that is not true. We've actually been doing other things. So yeah, there's a video coming out. Keep your eyes peeled, basically. We're not going to tell you when or what it's even about.
Ooh, mysteries.
There's stuff coming.
All right, and whichever large group of motorsports enthusiasts you represented poorly, thanks for riding along with us.
Thanks, guys.
Tired of going down, tired of myself, tired of this town.